Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight as we honour Mere Te Tai Mangakahia, Kate Shepherd, and all the suffragists who campaigned for women's suffrage in New Zealand. Since the 1970s, women in the majority of OECD countries have made substantial progress in the labour market, with both wages and labour force participation increasing relative to that for men. Despite these large improvements, the research shows that women still earn less than comparable men in all OECD countries. I was reminded of the gender earnings gap recently when looking at a picture of a man and a woman, each looking up at bags of money hanging from poles above their heads. The picture portrayed the man with a large, round bag full of money located within arm's reach, while the woman's bag was 1/3 of the size and located well outside her reach. Earlier this year, Carrie Gracie, a BBC journalist for 3 decades, left her post as China editor in protest against a gender pay gap of more than 50%. The inequality only became apparent after the BBC was forced to make salary disclosures. Despite the BBC's public insistence that her appointment demonstrated its commitment to gender equality and Carrie's own expectations of equality as a condition of taking up the post, the significant pay gap at the BBC is an example of how managers judge women's work as being worth much less than men's. According to the 2018 New Zealand Statistics Income Survey, median hourly earnings for females is $23.75, compared to $26.15 for males, a pay gap of 9.2%. In terms of an equal pay day equivalent, that means that the average New Zealand woman will have to work for an additional 5.2 weeks of 2019 to catch up to the average New Zealand man's earnings for 2018. That's right, ladies. All the work you do up to February 5th of 2019 will be just to achieve the same average earnings as men did by the end of 2018. A breakdown by age group shows the median gender gap maintains a gradual increase, 14 to 18% for women aged 35 to 49, a maximum pay gap of 20% for 50 to 54-year-old females. Women in this age group earn 80% of their male counterparts on average, equivalent to a pay difference of more than $10,000 per year. If you are in this category, your equal pay day won't be until Wednesday, March 20th of 2019. The data also points to a marked reduction in the proportion of women in the higher incomes of the pay scale. Currently, only 20% of the working population earning more than $150,000 per year is female. Past studies have reported educational differences as a key factor contributing to gender pay disparities. However, recent income survey data shows that the educational attainment levels of females in New Zealand now outstrip their male counterparts. A statistic our suffragist sisters would be proud to support. Traditional drivers, such as work, family responsibilities, education, and age, only explain about 20% of the difference between hourly income for males and females in New Zealand. And those factors are more important to women on lower incomes. The research shows that 80% of the gender gap is attributed to unobserved variables, such as behaviour, attitudes, assumptions, and unconscious bias about women in work. Using the New Zealand Linked Employer-Employee Database, a September 2018 study examined 4 potential explanations for the gender wage gap. The research tested for an association between male and female hourly earnings against productivity differences, explained as a combination of work commitment, fertility decisions, and social norms, work allocations across industries, occupations, firms, and different competition preferences, variation in men and women's bargaining ability, and also discrimination motivated by preference or by judgments about expected productivity. The results show that despite being a progressive country with a high female employment and a flexible labour market that is strongest in sectors that favour women, taste discrimination is an important determinant of the gender wage gap in New Zealand. The evidence points to persistent discrimination against women in many sectors of the economy. While higher levels of qualifications should be replacing the gender pay gap and reducing it, the research suggests that these achievements are not fully reflected in wages. This is discouraging news and suggests that stronger enforcement of equal pay regulations can benefit many women. We all have the power to change the gender pay gap. Continuing efforts to increase women's participation in high-demand occupations, addressing the undervaluation of female-dominated occupations, challenging discrimination based on gender preference and productivity expectations, addressing assumptions about women in work, pressure for greater transparency of male and female pay rates to eliminate pay secrecy, and bringing greater employer attention to the attraction, recruitment, retention, and promotion of women in their workplace are all critical to improving pay equity for female employees. Collectively, as a nation, the gender pay gap can be removed. We need to work together, just as the early suffragists campaigned to gain the right to vote. By addressing pay discrimination in our workplaces and challenging gender assumptions, women can realise equal pay for equal work, bringing long-term benefits to whānau, communities, and the wider economy. In closing, I quote Carrie Gracie from her open letter to the BBC audience. For BBC Woman, this is not just a matter of 1 year's salary or 2. Taking into account disadvantageous contracts and pension entitlements, it is a gulf that will last a lifetime. Many of the women affected are not highly paid stars, but hard-working producers on modest salaries. Often, women from ethnic minorities suffer wider pay gaps than the rest. It is not men earning more because they do more of the jobs that pay better. It is men earning more in the same jobs or jobs of equal value. It is pay discrimination and it is illegal. This evening, we celebrate 125 years since women first won the right to vote in Aotearoa. Let us honour that brave generation by making 2019 the year that we win equal pay. Thank you.